I am Vision.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and I want to talk to you guys about the show VisionQuest. I am more excited for this show than I have been for any Marvel show in years, and I think if it's as good as I think it's going to be, it's going to actually show the way forward and save Marvel Television. Now, a little later, I'm going to be joined by Mike Lawrence and Cameron Kasky to talk about all the rumors, casting news, and theories for this series, and what it all means for the future of the MCU and Marvel Television. But first, of course, it's been a few years since we last saw Vision, so I'm going to do a quick refresher. In Infinity War, we see Vision killed by Thanos when he rips the Mind Stone from his head. After the events of Endgame and Thanos' defeat, Vision remains as one of the few unfortunate souls who are still left dead from that movie. Now, in the show WandaVision, we see Wanda visit a plot of land that Vision had bought for them in Westview, New Jersey. In her grief, Wanda's powers create what's known as the Hex. This red, reality-warping force field envelops all of Westview, and inside the town is transformed into a sitcom reality. And inside this Hex, we see the creation of a brand new Vision created by Wanda and her memories, as well as her cosmic connection to the Mind Stone. Meanwhile, SWORD, the Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Department, has the real Vision's body, and they use it to create what becomes known as the White Vision, a cold and unfeeling android with the original Vision's memories locked away deep inside of him. They task this Vision with capturing Wanda and destroying the Hex. So while Agatha and Wanda are fighting, the Hex Vision and White Vision have a philosophical debate over who's the real Vision.
You are familiar with the thought experiment, the ship of Theseus in the field of identity metaphysics.
The Hex Vision supplants his memories into White Vision, which overrides SWORD's programming. So now, this White Vision is now freed from his captors. He flies away, and VisionQuest will follow what that android has been up to since WandaVision. Jack Schaefer, creator of WandaVision, was rumored to be developing this show VisionQuest, but she stepped down to focus on Agatha All Along, which was much closer to being a sequel to WandaVision. And it also featured the resurrection of Billy and Tommy, Wanda's kids. And that show ends with Billy and Agatha setting out to find Tommy. Now, I would really love to see Billy and Tommy appear in VisionQuest to help set up the Young Avengers, or the Champions, I think that's what they're going to call it now. However, the casting news suggests that this series will lean more into AI and technology instead of the search for Tommy. Deadline reported that Tania Miller has been cast as Jocasta, an android that Ultron designed to be his wife. And that makes sense since we already know that James Spader is returning as Ultron. Now, reliable leaker Daniel RPK has said that Carrie Condon will also return as the AI assistant Friday.
Friday. The Vision?
Boss, it's working. He's burning Ultron out of the net. He won't escape through there.
And Emily Hampshire will play Edith, the AI in Stark's glasses from Spider-Man Far From Home.
I am Edith, Tony Stark's augmented reality security and defense system.
RPK specifically said these two AIs will also have human bodies, and it sounds like all of Tony's AIs, like Vision, will be coming together and exploring what it means to be an artificial intelligence. We also know Farron Tahir is returning to play the weapons dealer who kidnaps Tony Stark in Iron Man 1. Geez, they're really going that far back, huh? Exactly, so each of these characters has a tie to Tony Stark, who also, of course, created Jarvis, which was the basis for Vision's programming. So VisionQuest could be an analysis of Stark's legacy through the eyes of his creations, or his children. And maybe even Morgan will appear in the show.
Last night, I dreamt. We had a kid. We named him after your eccentric uncle. What was his name?
Right.
Morgan.
Now, I love the idea of Vision going on a quest to kind of rediscover his own lost humanity, and he's going to have to go through the history of the MCU to figure out who he really is. And some of the best sci-fi stories have this same premise about an artificial intelligence whose exploration of humanity helps us examine the flaws in ourselves. Like you guys know, I talk about it all the time here on the channel. You've probably seen my facial tic where I want to squish my eyes or clench my jaw, and I used to nervous eat all the time. And I'm sure you guys have your own bad oral fixation habits that you'd like to change. Now, I used to think that it was impossible to quit all of those bad habits, and it turns out I was right. Because I couldn't just quit, I had to replace. And that is where Fume comes in. No vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavored air that actually satisfies. No stress, no withdrawals, just a simple swap. Guys, Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that draws flavor into your mouth and not into your lungs. It is a great way to satisfy my oral fixation habit with non-toxic flavors, and it is safe to use anywhere. So I want to show you guys, there is no vapor at all in here. This does not need batteries, and you don't have to charge it. It just has these flavor-based cores that you can personalize with your favorite flavors, like crisp mint or my favorite, orange vanilla. It tastes like an orange dreamsicle, one of my favorites from when I was a kid. Also, it looks cool. I love how it's weighted, I love the wood design, and it feels just premium in your hand. And it's also a great fidget tool that makes this incredibly satisfying sound. It is completely safe, and they continuously invest in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products, and it is backed by doctors here in the United States. Physiology shows stopping a bad habit cold turkey is really hard on your brain, so Fume works to replace your hand-to-mouth fixation, calming nervous tension through fidgeting, and distracting you from your bad habit with this delicious flavor. Fume has already helped more than 500,000 people build better habits. So try Fume today, and if you order the Journey Pack now using our code ScreenCrush, you'll get a free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen right now. Now back to what I was saying. This whole storyline sounds similar to a comic called Rage of Ultron. Ultron begins to take on the characteristics of his creator, Hank Pym. The comic portrays Hank and Ultron's relationship as a neglectful father and son relationship. So while Ultron's plan involves turning all humans into robots, the android craves his own father's love, which is a very human need. In VisionQuest, Ultron could be creating new android bodies for Stark's AIs, and this would tie into the hypocrisy of Ultron, wanting to create a world of metal but also craving companionship. Now this is also like the brilliant series by Tom King, The Visions, that I'm going to talk about with Cameron and Mike later on. So now we have a new Vision who is looking for his place in the world, still grappling with what it means to be himself. So then Ultron returns and is following in their creator's footsteps, creating bodies for Stark AIs, but also creating Jocasta, a new AI threat that, according to Deadline, is driven by revenge. Revenge for what? Well, it's hard to say. Like in Age of Ultron, we saw that Tony did have a personality drive called Jocasta. So maybe, just like in the comics, Ultron creates her, but he uses this imprint the same way Vision was created from Jarvis's imprint. Now, just like in the comics, maybe when she refuses to love Ultron, he will discard her. So she'll want revenge for being brought into this world, sort of like Frankenstein's bride. Looking at it through this lens, Jocasta would be Ultron's greatest failure, just like Ultron was Stark's greatest failure.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Now, the showrunner of this show is Terry Matales, and Kevin Feige said that he picked him after his amazing work on Picard Season 3. So, having a showrunner so well versed in sci-fi technology for a show about AI is a no-brainer. Now, I am very lucky to be joined by two of the absolute smartest comic book people that I know. We have comedian Mike Lawrence and Cameron Kasky, who is the intern that I fire in every single video that he's in. Guys, there's a lot to unpack about VisionQuest. We haven't had a trailer. We don't even have an official title yet. But the casting rumors are insane, especially for the characters that we're going to see. And you know, Mike, you're a professional TV writer, so later on, I want to talk to you about, hey, what it means for Marvel to hire an actual showrunner for their show. But first, Mike, just drawing from like what you know about comics and Jocasta and Ultron, what do you think they're putting together for this series?
I mean, I think it's going to be robot family drama, and that's what I'm excited for. You know, for the old school nerds, you know, Jocasta is Oedipus's mom.
Very old school. And somewhere there's a Greek guy on his toilet watching this video wearing a toga who goes, yes, that's the one.
Yeah, whoever was yelling inaccuracies about Themyscira in the Wonder Woman movies, that one for you. Oh, yeah, but Jocasta, you know, it's always been, you know, Ultron calls Vision his son. And I think, you know, Spader is so fun as Ultron, so getting to see him with that, and then a possible love interest for Spader, you know, could be an interesting thing. Yeah, I think it's gonna be weird. You know, VisionQuest in the comics was the Roger Stern story where the Vision takes over the world essentially and hacks into all of the computers. So there wasn't much Jocasta or Ultron in that, so I don't know if they're just using this title, not telling that story. But either way, I mean, I'm intrigued, and at the end of the day, you get a TV show with Paul Bettany in it. That's pretty awesome.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that VisionQuest story. So refresh my memory. That was from the 70s. It was an arc in the
80s.
80s?
Yeah, it was Roger Stern, yeah.
And it was an arc in the Avengers, correct? Where Vision was to take over the
in
world
250s,
to fix the problems, to fix all the world's problems. You see, that's interesting because when Ultron in the MCU, we see this still kills me, this is a thing, he's able to burn Ultron out of the internet, which honestly, if that's a skill that the Vision has had this entire time, he hasn't even begun to crack the good he could do for the world if he would start to use it for that. Jocasta in Age of Ultron, though, was actually in there. She was written on one of the data cards that Tony Stark used. There was Friday. He picked Friday, but Jocasta was one of them. So just like Paul Bettany was Jarvis, maybe she's a different program that he had developed. But before I get too far into that, Cam, I got to hear from you real quick. What are your like baseline theories on what we're going to see here?
Well, when I hear robot family drama, I think about the famous Tom King run of Vision from only a couple years ago.
Hell yeah.
And so
Yeah.
much of that run made it into WandaVision. So I'm like, all right, if we're doing Vision family drama, we kind of famously already did that. And maybe even more would be great. But we've got this Vision who's sort of like a blank slate. You know, he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And if Ultron's going to be in the story, I imagine he's probably going to be coming after Vision because Vision is, you know, the form he's always wanted. So I imagine he'll want to go snatch that body. I don't know where Ultron could be, seeing as Vision, as you put it, burned him out of the internet. I don't know how exactly they're going to explain that, but would be great to see him again. I think that Ultron in Age of Ultron was a little bit of a missed opportunity for how imposing and scary Ultron can be because he's a pretty scary character. Like, I mean, AI going rogue, more relevant now than it was in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him again, but I think when Marvel is doing a story where they aren't really pulling from anything directly, it's sort of like it's like a coin flip. Sometimes you end up being like, oh, this is going to be directionless. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be just typical overextended Marvel nonsense. And then sometimes that's how you know it's going to be good, if they're not pulling from something. So definitely curious what this could be. There's not a lot of Vision material to pull from where he's at the center of the story. And this is a Vision who doesn't really know that much about his place in the world. And I don't really have very much of an emotional connection to White Vision. So I don't know. It seems like there's a great team behind it. But to be honest with you, I kind of forgot that they were making this show.
Well, as far as I know, nobody stood up on a stage at Comic-Con and formally announced it. It's just one of those things they're kind of letting it coast under the radar for a little bit. But then again, I don't remember a Wonder Man announcement like that either. Believe it or not, it's been 10 years since that Tom King series came out. And I don't know that I would say they adapted that much of WandaVision with it because that series was about Vision, like living in the suburbs and building his own family to try to live that sort of life. So this might actually be a more loyal adaptation if we're getting like Edith and all these other AI kind of like brought together to live as robots with him. I'm not sure.
So another Vision living in the suburbs with his own family show.
Yeah, but not in a sitcom. I mean, I think there's a difference there. I think the first one was very much an adaptation of Vision and the Scarlet Witch, but The Visions it's not about Wanda creating the perfect reality. It's about Vision trying to create his perfect family. But one thing that we do know, like just going back, like we've got the terrorist from Iron Man in this. We've got James Spader as Ultron, which is huge because Ross Marquand, voiced him in the TV show. Mike, it looks like we're seeing Vision kind of go back and revisit his origins or his life in some way. But look at what they're building off though. What were your thoughts on Ultron when that movie came out, like, and how he was depicted?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Cameron. I mean, the problem was they had James Spader doing a Robert Downey Jr. impression, and he was human. And yeah, Ultron is very scary. If you know the Kurt Busiek, George Perez story, Ultron Unlimited, where he wipes out an entire country. His humanity is always perverted. So he will call, in the comics, Hank Pym creates him, so he calls him father. He calls Vision's son. There's a very weird, anytime he tries to be human, it's clear that he doesn't know how. And and I mean, what's interesting too, adamantium originates with Vision in 1968, 7 years before Wolverine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was made of adamantium. It's the first appearance of adamantium is in an Avengers story. And so it was like he was completely unbeatable in many ways.
Ultron was made out of adamantium, not Vision.
I'm sorry. Yes. Ultron
okay, I'm not trying to correct you. I didn't know that. You're telling me to, man, you're spitting.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I get them wrong.
Maybe they'll bring back Eternals Island just because we haven't gotten enough of it, man. Everybody who watched Brave New World.
Yeah, I know. Finally, right? The thing about Ultron in the comics is he does have that face, right? And one thing that lent to his inhumanity, I never pictured his face.
You mean he doesn't have the face in the comics? You mean he has the face?
Well, that's what I mean.
Movies.
His face is just this unmoving mask that makes him more terrifying. And I think in the movies, as soon as they, there was a first teaser for Age of Ultron where they just showed that classic mask, but then they made him expressive. And I agree with you guys. I think he wisecracked too much and he wasn't scary.
It's so funny because in those earlier movies, so many of the villains, like a Malekith, like a Caecilius, remember Caecilius? They were robotic villains. and then they took the one robot and gave him too much personality. And
Yeah,
and
way
it,
too much.
And I
yeah,
get the storytelling instinct. Like, I do
yeah,
understand why they would say, okay, this thing created by Tony Stark is going to be a warped shadow of his creator, right? And then it's sort of
Hmm.
because the whole story is, about Tony and Bruce kind of flying too close to the sun with this thing,
Hmm.
overextending and doing too much to try and protect people. So Ultron being an overextended, too much version of Tony's more morbid side in the back of his head, that darkness to Tony that's always implicit. I get it from a storytelling perspective, but I think that the robotic Ultron that we're all kind of longing for right now would have been a better foil to the Avengers, especially when the first villain we saw them against was also like a funny guy. Ultron was just
Hmm.
like
right.
the second funny, charming guy that the Avengers went after.
And also, Cameron, it was interesting too, was that there were so many evil Tonys, right? You had Obadiah Stane, you had, Mysterio ends up being an evil Tony, you
Hmm.
know,
Whiplash was, I would say, an evil Tony.
and so was Justin Hammer was evil Tony too, the business side of it. Why, like, okay, you're bringing Raza back, like, how are we not getting more Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer? Like,
I know, dude.
when people bash Iron Man 2, it cannot be a bad movie with that good of a performance in it. He is so incredible in that movie, and I just want to see more of him. I know he was in that one Marvel one-shot thing, but bring Hammer back.
There is an alternate universe where the Thunderbolts movie was like a true Thunderbolts movie with Baron Zemo, Justin Hammer, the Abomination, minus what they did to him in She-Hulk. That's still, I
Bullseye,
love
yeah.
a Bullseye. I love the Thunderbolts, but I do still hold out hope that someday we'll get to see that motley band of misfits get together. So
Well,
I
you're
wonder if
certainly not
their
going to
goal.
see. I'm sorry, you're certainly not going to see this team together again based on that box office.
Well, we are. They're already due up next December. Well, December and
Yeah,
counting. We'll see if it gets pushed back again. That
yeah.
actually, I mean, it's a little off topic. That box office kind of stunned me. I think they realized they made a mistake with the marketing because immediately they were like, "No, it's the new Avengers. It's the Avengers movie, guys. It's a new Avengers movie." And it's a shame because twisting that comic reveal of the Thunderbolts and making them into the new, I really enjoyed it. Plus, I really
Can I
like the
give you my
movie.
hot take?
Yeah, man,
I
lay
think
it
they
out
should have
there.
marketed Sentry earlier. I think they should have showed everybody that there was another warped Superman in it. I think audiences love different takes on Supermans. As a big comic book fan who watches this shit all the time, I'm kind of exhausted by those takes, although I think Sentry was obviously great. But I think that if they had put Sentry in that superhero-y costume doing wild, power scalar stuff, I think more people would have seen the movie. That is my truth.
Just to circle back to Ultron real quick, do you think that looking at this, right? Because Terry Matales, who we'll talk about in a second, he did Picard season 3. And one thing he did in Picard season 3 was very much correct mistakes from the movies and the TV shows. Like he brought Data back to life. He was able to give us fan service, but without it feeling like fan service in a way that served the plot, which is why I think we'll talk about this later, but he's perfect for this kind of thing. Do you hope or think that they're going to scale James Spader back? Maybe he's a new version of Ultron that's devoid of the Tony Stark personality, and he's more of a futurist and less of a wisecracker. I mean, personally, I'd love to see that.
I think so, because I think a lot of that was the Whedon influence and
Yeah.
Whedon's need to have everyone be quippy.
Hmm.
And, like the robot was quippy, right? So it's like to take that out. And if everyone is funny around the scary guy, it makes the scary guy scarier.
Hmm.
And if it's anything that a lot of these shows have been lacking that I'm excited about with Terry Matales, it is vision, right?
Yeah. A
Creative
theme.
vision.
Yeah. A reason to exist other than we need to get this IP out because Disney is making us.
When Cameron, was saying that he didn't even know that this was coming out, I didn't either, and I actually think that that's a great thing. Like, let stuff like sneak under the radar. Let them show it to us when it's ready to be shown. We learn what happened with Blade when that doesn't work out, and it just further fuels the narrative that they don't know what they're doing. That it's
Hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business, and we're customers, and if we don't trust the business, we go somewhere else. And when you hear every article, it's so funny that a lot of these sites like make so much money off of this franchise. What they don't realize is when they're reporting all the problems in the franchise, they're just helping to kill it and pushing themselves further into unemployment. Because if there's no
Yeah.
franchise, you don't have anything to write about.
Well, it's crazy to think like of how weird the multiverse saga is, right? And how like they have all these different plates spinning. And the Infinity Saga was very straightforward. We know that at the end of Phase 2, we're going to have this, and Phase 3, we're going to have this. This one, it's hard to tell because there's all these rumors that Doomsday is going to end with, it makes sense with the universes being destroyed, and Secret Wars is going to take place on Battleworld. And then Daniel RPK, who leaked a lot of this VisionQuest stuff, has also said that any movie set between is going to be on Battleworld. And then Brand New Day was going to be between the movies, but now it's not because they pushed them back. So is VisionQuest going to be in a weird alternate patchwork reality, or is it going to be him maybe assembling the champions, which is what we're calling the Young Avengers in this universe? It's weird. It makes it so hard for us as fans to even predict what they're going to do. So I guess I have two questions for the both of you. One, what do you think they're going to do? And two, what do you hope they're going to do? Cam, what do you think?
I have a theory that they wrote a Spider-Man 4 script, and then the Battleworld thing happened, and they started shooting the Battleworld version of the movie, and then Avengers Doomsday got pushed, and they went back to the first Spider-Man 4 script. Call that a
There were
tinfoil if you want, but if you read the book about how the MCU came together, that is not unprecedented behavior.
No, not at all.
I think that, look, I would actually be really interested in seeing a series where Vision is assembling the Young Avengers. I think that the Young Avengers have been generally successful for MCU TV. I think people really loved Joe Locke as Wiccan on the
Yeah.
Agatha All Along show. I think people really like Haley Steinfeld, and that team coming together could be a very fun thing to watch. I don't know how exactly they would, I guess the way to tie it together would be, these are Vision's kids that are part of it, because there's also the character
Mhm.
Speed that some MCU fans aren't completely familiar with quite yet, who's Wiccan's brother.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like more interesting a pitch than all the AIs hanging out with each other. Like when I hear that it's going to be Vision and Friday and Jocasta, I'm like, okay, a bunch of AIs talking to each other. I could just go to the comment section of Twitter if I want to see this. Like the thought of a low-key champion show, well, that's really cool. And that's something that could be fun and surprising. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope this has nothing to do with Battleworld. I kind of don't want other MCU things set on Battleworld. I would like it if Battleworld was a cohesive thing, and if those two movies, Doomsday and Secret Wars, were one great movement, part 1 and part 2, without a bunch of on the side. Like if they're going to make a Doctor Strange 3, mixing that with the Incursion stuff does make sense. But I still don't know what's going on in the MCU right now, and I haven't known for the past like 7 years of the MCU.
Neither does Kevin Feige.
Yeah, exactly. So like we don't have a very good sense of cohesion in the MCU as is. So I would like it if a project that just tears it apart and puts it back together can just stay its own thing. I don't want to watch Spider-Man, fighting 7 different Thors at the same time. I don't want to watch Spider-Man interacting with any of the Avengers. I want to watch Spider-Man be Spider-Man. Let him be Spider-Man.
Well, the latest rumor is that Bruce Banner is going to be in that, which there's a fun theory there that maybe the Hulk the forgetting spell didn't work on him like it kind of didn't work when the Sentry made people forget about him. So there's some interesting stuff they can do with crossovers. But again, I also want my grounded Spider-Man movie.
When they do Spider-Man 4 and they explain why he didn't do to help anybody during Daredevil Born Again.
Well, so it basically is always like that, right? Like, oh no, he was done over here doing this. So Mike, what about you? What do you feel like we're going to get for VisionQuest, and what do you hope we get for VisionQuest?
I mean, knowing that they're hiring somebody who's going to see this through from beginning to end and has a story to tell. I think at the end of the day, it's like, continuity was a magic trick that impressed us at first.
Right.
And a shared universe was this thing that was amazing to watch unfold cinematically, because we had never seen it done to the scale that it is been done now. And it's no longer impressive. What will always be impressive and what will always matter is good stories and good acting and good storytelling. And I think at the end of the day, just whether it connects to other things or it doesn't, I mean, I think that's part of what was good about Born Again, is that they didn't worry about that so much. I mean, there's, an Easter egg here and there, and a father telling you who his daughter is 50 times, but but for the most part, it's just
Oh,
an
wait, that was
interesting.
Kamala Khan's dad. Yeah, okay, no,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry,
I
sorry,
missed
sorry.
that. No, I missed it
Yeah,
the first time. Thank you.
yeah.
Please keep going. Yeah.
Would you like a candy? No, but I just think that it's like, just make it interesting, whatever it is. If it is a bunch of AIs hanging out, make it the best AIs hanging out show. If it is, Vision running a team of teenagers, make it the best robot guiding teenager show. Like, I just, we wonder so much about what the story is going to be, and we don't ask enough if it's actually going to be good and worth watching.
Well, because with the MCU, that used to be the assumption. They had such a hot streak, especially Phase 2. I mean, from Winter Soldier to Guardians.
But it's amazing because they didn't. They had so many duds in the Infinity Saga. It's just they would never have too many in a row.
And that's what's got them now is a lot of mid-level movies, one after another, and you kind of forget about Guardians 3.
I mean, I think what's got them now, and I've talked to a lot of people about this who are not comic book fans, is these TV shows was a jumping off point for people that, Feige's even addressed this, right? If you have to watch a TV show for homework in order to enjoy a movie, I mean, I think that's what really hurt Thunderbolts. That's what hurt Brave New World in a lot of ways. I mean, there's other issues, but at the end of the day, like, who's Julia Louis-Dreyfus supposed to be?
Oh, yeah. What did I see her in? Yeah.
Yeah, so when there's that, and I think when they just, WandaVision was just an interesting, fascinating story that came at the right place at the right time with very good performers giving very good performances.
Well, and like you said, what they've done different here is they have a guy at the helm who is fresh off of basically the hottest geek property of the past few years, which was Picard Season 3. Terry Matales came into that. He was co-showrunner on Picard Season 2. It seemed like he didn't get to, it was a mesh of ideas, right? Between him and other creatives, but Season 3 was all him. It's like he knew this may be the last time we ever get these people together. And as a fan of this kind of material, he really did it. But it's interesting to look back because when Marvel TV first started, they didn't have it sounds weird to even say it, but they were like, no, we're not doing a traditional showrunner. We're Marvel. So we'll do like what we've done before. We'll have an overseen producer. And as a result, you got shows like Moon Knight, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, which felt very much like a movie that was cut up into sections. And WandaVision and Loki turned out to be the outliers because they actually were episodic TV that made sense to split into episodes and not at arbitrary 35-minute marks. So looking ahead to that, Mike, you're somebody who's worked in TV, who's worked in writers' rooms. Amy Schumer, where else have you worked?
Yeah, but please give a credit that the commenters will respect me for.
Oh, yeah. Well, these commenters
yeah.
maybe, but I love to work
Yeah.
on that show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Up the Greg Daniels show Upload. I worked on the show Crashing.
Yeah.
I worked on Pete
Yeah.
Davidson's Bupkis. And I mean, a showrunner is everything because at the end of the day, a showrunner, they do a lot of the writing and oversee that, but more importantly, and it's unfortunate that there's a more importantly, but there is, they are the liaison between the executives, the business people, and the creative people. And when they do their job great, they don't let one affect the other.
Yeah, and I guess that's one thing about Terry that he was great at was like Paramount and Star Trek in particular has such deep lore. And, they were more focused on the Discovery era shows. So I think he was able to get in there and play with those action figures that he wanted to. And hopefully the same thing is happening with this. I mean, nobody else is going to use Edith and Jocasta anytime soon.
But the showrunner, they're the first one in and the last one out every day. They also decide, or if not decide, but they make decisions on, wardrobe, on locations, things like that. So it's a very powerful position. And I mean, yeah, you want someone with a point of view. And obviously, I think what else is here is a track record, right? This guy gets his shows made.
hmm Do you
And
think Marvel has been reluctant to give somebody that power because it seems like they're almost built like the Empire? Yeah, they have Feige at the top, and everybody else just feeds into that.
yeah, I mean, I've heard, a lot of stories. I think it's pretty well known at this point, and you can certainly see it on the screen that the film directors don't even get to direct the action scenes all the time.
Yep, and have it
And
for a long time.
when you're wondering why those third acts all look the same, that's why. And I mean, when you look at, Black Panther and the water fall scene is so interesting and fascinating, and then the train fight isn't as much. It's because that's executive pushing what they think a third act should be. So,
hmm
and we clearly could see how visually compelling Coogler could be on his own, and I mean, we saw how compelling he could be with them, but even unleashed, it's a whole other beast, right? So, I think that Feige, I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what Marvel did, that we were going to get to this point. Nothing stays gold forever.
hmm
And comic books, if you know anything about them at all, have definitely had highs and lows. And, sales wise, comic books have been in a real slump since the boom of the 90s. And
Yeah,
and and the way is like if you're a fan of this stuff, you can enjoy it the way that like I do as a comic book fan, where it's like I can't buy every book, so I'm not gonna be into Moon Knight. I may not watch Secret Invasion, but I'm going to focus on the stuff I like and the things that I hear are good. And I'm going to trust people who tell me this deserves to be watched. And at the end of the day, if you feel burnt out, don't consume it all.
Cam, I do wonder if Vision Quest might do a little bit of this. If, like, with this casting, especially the terrorist from Iron Man 1, if there is going to be kind of a victory lap or if it's going to be about Vision, maybe just going back to remember who he was or try to get to the essence of what made Jarvis Jarvis, which in that case, there's like Iron Man Easter eggs that say he started in college or he was building college. Maybe they are pulling Robert Downey Jr. in for a cameo. That would certainly juice up Disney Plus, make it feel more legit. Is there anything along those lines you think they, would be fun for them to insert from stories of MCU yore?
I don't know. I think Brave New World really gave me a look at how uninterested I am in the old MCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
Captain America Brave New World came out. I saw like a Letterboxd review that said, "Hey everyone, it's a sequel to everybody's favorite Marvel properties. The Incredible Hulk from 2008, Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, and The
Mm-hmm.
Eternals. Come
How
on,
could it
gang, bring
miss?
out your favorite Marvels coming together." But I don't care about the past. I care about getting any sense of there being a future, something being something looking forward. And unfortunately, this is not the time to be looking forward when Avengers: Doomsday and Secret Wars, two movies that I am excited for, are all about taking people who were cast in their roles 25 years ago and bringing them back. And it's, Doomsday is going to play as a Marvel's greatest hits. Please remember why
Sure.
you like us type of movie, which could end up being good. I don't know. Deadpool versus Wolverine was that. Deadpool versus Wolverine was like,
It wanted to be that. I don't want to get into Deadpool and Wolverine because I got my complaints. And I do got to wrap it up there, guys. But I want to thank you both for coming on. Let me know your thoughts. I'm looking forward to Vision Quest. I think this is going to be the best thing. I mean, sight unseen. I hope it's the best thing Marvel's done in a long time because the talent they have behind it. In the TV realm, they've had very little like this come through. So thank you, Mike Lawrence. Thank you, Cameron Kasky.
Just give us Ultron and Vision singing Cats in the Cradle to each other.
That's all anybody actually wants to see.
Yep.
Mike, thanks so much for that. And guys,
Yeah,
remember, I
okay.
want to hear what you think about this down in the comments or on our free to join Discord server or at me and these two guys on any of our socials. You know where to find us. All the links are below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.